What's up, guys? We are back. It's been a minute,
Been a while.
couple of months, but we've been too busy training to make these videos. So I'm trying to get better. So I've been training. I'm Mike. This is Professor Angelo, and the reason I bring him into these videos is not just because he's done jiu-jitsu for 20 some years and has a lot of jiu-jitsu knowledge, but the science is debatable. But you were breastfed till age 11, right?
Yeah.
So there's a,
Yeah.
I don't know. He just thinks differently, so it's a huge help.
That was the intro you warned me about.
I got you. Yeah, I will defend my brothers. I will defend the weak. I will pursue and fight evil so others may sleep. I am the sheepdog, protecting the night. Wolf hunters unite. Bring it on. It's time to fight.
All right, seriously, we did a video before of the 3 excuses cops often give for not training. It was injury, finances, and pajamas. Like they didn't want to look goofy or whatever.
Right.
Now those are all really ultimately excuses because they can all be rearranged. Those are all priority issues. Like that's you get the information and you can change your priorities. You don't have to change your priorities. It's your life, but you can arrange them if you wanted to make training a priority. But underneath that, I think, is one real big reason, and it actually came up a lot in the comments, which is ego. And probably a lot of ego in martial arts, like MMA,
Yep.
grappling.
Yep.
Like it tends to draw people in who are more confident and aggressive, and ego can become a problem, although true martial artists hopefully puts that in check.
That's true, but we do see it like cross martial arts wise. Like you'll have somebody who's a black belt, let's say, in another martial art, come and do jiu-jitsu, and they have to start all over. So they bring that ego with them from their other skill set.
Yeah.
So we see that in a lot of different mentalities, whether it's other martial arts or sports or.
And I think that's what kind of, from a cop perspective, and I've seen a lot of officers step onto the mats once, twice, by the third time, it's like they're out, because in one sense, it's really, really good to have a confidence about you. So that is part of having ego, like, being aware of yourself. And we're taught, all through the academy, hey, the fight is not over. It's like you never give up, right? So like when you're doing simunitions, if you get shot with a little paint round, you don't stop. You just keep going. You keep going. You keep going. You keep going until it's over. So that mentality, you carry that into something new like jiu-jitsu, and you step onto the mat, and all of a sudden, a 150-pound high schooler is like tossing you around a little bit like a rag doll, and you're supposed to be the guy or girl that can handle that.
Right.
And all of a sudden, you realize, I don't
Can't.
know as much as I maybe thought I did, because this is different. So it tends to maybe it's a little bit of embarrassment, right? Because you're like, hey, I represent law enforcement. I don't want to be seen as someone who can't take care of the job. I don't want to be viewed that way. But just like the academy, I think you have to be sort of brought down to be built up. You didn't know anything when you went there either. If somebody would have asked you in the academy, like, oh, hey, break down how retail fraud works, what are all the penalties, what's the process? And you're like, well, I don't know. You don't walk out, you learn, right? So how would you build someone up and help them overcome the ego reason?
Just having an understanding of jiu-jitsu, like the one thing we explain is jiu-jitsu is meant to beat you every single time, right? So when you come in, it's something you get better at by failing at, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
If you came in and mastered everything we showed from day one, I'd have no job as an instructor, right?
Right,
So,
which means at this point, we got a couple more weeks till I got it all figured out.
I mean, you'll be all set on your own then, right? But, and that's the thing, you don't realize you are getting better every time you fail. And like you said, I think you hit the nail on the head with the cop mentality of, I'm going home at the end of the shift and I've got to win. And, like my buddy said, I remember my buddy's a state trooper, and his saying was, I'm always coming out of the ditch, right?
Yeah.
If you're fighting with someone and you end up in the ditch, he's always coming out, is his saying.
Yeah.
And that's true. You want to have that mentality, but in jiu-jitsu, it doesn't work that way. So, it's there's a common phrase you always hear with jiu-jitsu: leave your ego at the door. And you have to do that. And I think you have to do that in all aspects of life, not just jiu-jitsu or your career.
Yeah, I think like if you're willing to go through it, if you're willing to overcome that reason or that fear of your ego getting crushed, yeah, it's gonna be a hard road. But if you don't go down that road and you still keep your ego, now you have like an arrogance without the ability to back it up.
Right.
As opposed to being humbled on the mats and knowing, hey, there is always someone out there who can get the best of me, so I need to continue to progress and be more confident. And it's better to be confident in your skills and know exactly where you stand, and that's going to keep you safer as a cop, and it's certainly going to keep people around you, including the people you're arresting, safer when you have, I think, like a humble confidence with what you know here. So I don't know, like
humbling is the word. I think that's what I was going for. Like, it's a humbling experience, but like you said, it definitely lets you know where you are. And you and I talk about watching videos, and we talk about how the situations escalate unnecessarily. And I think what jiu-jitsu gives you is that knowledge of where you are and when it has to escalate.
Yeah.
So I think that's the biggest skill you're going to take away with, is knowing your abilities and the reality of a situation, whether it's somebody who's under the influence or bigger, stronger, whatever, and you're definitely going to know. And I don't think things are going to escalate as quickly as they do.
Right. And it's like you're almost working against yourself. If you refuse to improve, if you refuse to overcome where you're weak in certain areas, you're not accomplishing having that confidence of walking around saying, I'm going to fight, win, go home. You're not helping develop that mentality. The only way to build that up is to expose where you're weak and then work on it over and over and over again and rebuild a level of confidence, like anything else in life, really. So there's excuses, and then there's really that underlying reason, and I found that like ego is a huge one. So don't let it get in your way, because you just come in, and when you put yourself, I think, equal to everyone else out there, it's an experience that will help retrain how you view yourself, and you have a healthy sense of who you are rather than some kind of distorted sense that's going to get you hurt.
Yep.
Any other words of wisdom?
No, I think that's it.
That's it. There's no other. This is the last video you'll ever see on ego and jiu-jitsu training and police work, because this was the definitive word. So tell your friends. And we'll be back again. Next video, we're going to do a little handcuffing technique. So look for it. And I lied last time that I was going to make a playlist. I didn't do that yet. I'm going to make it this time. Or not. See ya.